Today at the White House we witnessed what many are calling the beginning of a potentially historic shift in the long and painful saga of the war in Ukraine, as former President Donald Trump hosted President Volodymyr Zelenskyy along with European leaders in a series of high-stakes meetings that Trump himself described as very good early steps toward peace, setting the stage for what could become direct talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, after nearly 6 hours of diplomacy behind closed doors. The announcement sent ripples through Washington and across Europe, as Trump floated the possibility of not only coordinating a Putin-Zelenskyy meeting but even staging a trilateral summit that could bring all three leaders together at the same table, a dramatic twist in a conflict that has cost untold lives and billions of dollars in global security aid. Zelenskyy emerged with cautious optimism, declaring his readiness to sit down with Putin one-on-one while stressing the need for strong security guarantees, and European leaders like Britain's Keir Starmer and France's Emmanuel Macron echoed that message, emphasizing that Europe will remain united behind Ukraine's defense. Yet Trump hinted at a bolder role for the United States, teasing that while Europe will continue to bear much of the burden, America is preparing a new security pact that could involve a staggering $100 billion in weapons and defense support, a signal that Washington still has enormous leverage in shaping the battlefield and the negotiating table. Meanwhile, NATO and EU partners are launching what they call a coalition of the willing to coordinate military support and prepare conditions for a ceasefire, but they also pressed for an immediate halt to hostilities before moving too far into political deals. Through it all, the human dimension weighed heavily, as leaders highlighted the plight of abducted Ukrainian children and the ongoing suffering of civilians, reminding the world that this is not just a geopolitical chess match but a humanitarian crisis demanding urgency. In the coming weeks we will see whether Putin accepts the invitation to talks, whether Zelenskyy's call for concrete security guarantees is met, and whether Trump's ambitious vision of a trilateral summit can break through years of entrenched hostility. Today may not yet be peace, but it was undeniably a step in that direction, and the world will be watching closely, because in moments like these, decisions made in Washington echo far beyond borders and could change the course of history. Trump-Zelenskyy summit at the White House was a carefully watched moment in international politics, bringing together not only the US president and the Ukrainian leader but also key European figures determined to shape the next stage of the war in Ukraine. Unlike the tense atmosphere of their earlier meeting, this summit was marked by smiles and a more diplomatic tone, suggesting both sides had learned lessons from past missteps. Central to the discussions were two pressing issues: how to secure a credible ceasefire and what kind of long-term security guarantees could be offered to Ukraine. Donald Trump spoke of providing very good protection, though his words carried little detail, leaving allies and observers questioning the strength of America's commitment. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, by contrast, was direct and uncompromising, making clear that Ukraine would never trade away territory or abandon its NATO ambitions, insisting that true peace can only come through respect for sovereignty. At one point, Trump floated the idea of organizing a trilateral meeting with himself, Zelenskyy, and Vladimir Putin, a suggestion he described as a potential breakthrough, though many doubted Russia's willingness to join such talks sincerely. Alongside these weighty negotiations, there were also softer diplomatic gestures. Zelenskyy presented Trump with a personal letter for the First Lady, underscoring the human dimension of diplomacy and the importance of personal ties in moments of crisis. European leaders, however, voiced quiet unease, fearing that Trump's eagerness to move quickly toward a deal might create pressure on Ukraine to make concessions it cannot afford. In the end, the summit did not produce concrete commitments or binding agreements, but it did open the door to further dialogue and provided a platform for Ukraine to reaffirm its red lines. The meeting can therefore be seen as a cautious step forward, promising continued conversation, but leaving the hardest decisions for another day.